Distinguished representatives, I call to order the fifth plenary meeting of the 24th session of the Assembly. The first item on our agenda is the adoption of the declaration of the Assembly of States Parties at the 24th session of the Assembly. The draft declaration was circulated by the Secretariat under a silence procedure on 28 November 25. The silence procedure ended at 18 hours on 30th November 25 and was not broken. You have received the draft declaration contained in document ICC-ASP24/L3 in all languages yesterday. May I take it that the Assembly wishes to adopt the declaration as the outcome of the thematic general debate? I don't see anyone objecting for moving on to the adoption. Thus, let us proceed to the adoption of the draft declaration. May I take that the Assembly wishes to adopt the declaration contained in document ICC-ASP24/L3 as the outcome of the thematic general debate? I see no objection. I hereby declare the declaration of the Assembly of States Parties at the 24th session of the Assembly adopted. I thank the distinguished delegates for this adoption. And before concluding, I would like to thank all states parties for their active engagement in the process of the negotiation of the declaration that the Assembly has adopted and for their flexibility and spirit of cooperation. In particular, I thank Vice President Ambassador Margaret Kasankana for leading the negotiations of states parties, and also the legal advisor of Austria, Mr. Faris Seider, for his role in chairing the 2 rounds of informal consultations held last week. We can be proud of this declaration, which inter alia expresses the support of states parties for the court, its elected officials and staff in the challenges that it faces. I see no further requests for the floor. I thank you all for your participation in this important outcome of the general debate. And we will now return to the agenda of the 24th session, and the Assembly will return to agenda item 11, election of members of the Committee on Budget and Finance. At our first plenary session, we deferred consideration of the election of the African representative to the Committee on Budget and Finance, noting that there were 2 candidates for the 1 vacant seat, Mr. M. Gilbert Raveloson du Madagascar and Mr. Philippe Néry-Couton-Nion du Burkina Faso. By note verbal dated 1st December 25, Burkina Faso has informed the Secretariat that it has withdrawn its candidate for the African seat on the Committee on Budget and Finance. Therefore, there is 1 candidate for 1 vacant seat. May I ask whether the Assembly agrees, pursuant to Resolution ICC-ASP/Resolution 1, to dispense with the secret ballot and elect Mr. Aimé Gilbert Raveloson du Madagascar by acclamation? I see no objection. We shall proceed accordingly. The Assembly therefore elects Mr. Aimé Gilbert Raveloson du Madagascar for a 3-year term commencing on 1st January 26. I congratulate Mr. Raveloson on his election and thank him for assuming these important responsibilities on behalf of the Assembly. We have thus concluded our consideration of agenda item 11. We will now turn to agenda item 12, consideration and adoption of the budget for the 24th financial year. Today, we will hear presentations by the Registrar and the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance. We will also consider the audit reports and the annual report of the head of the Independent Oversight Mechanism. We will first hear a statement by the Registrar of the Court, Mr. Osvaldo Zavala-Hilaire, and then a presentation by the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance, Mr. Jun Yamada. Before giving the floor to the Registrar, I draw your attention to the documentation before the Assembly, in particular the following documents. The proposed program budget of the International Criminal Court for 25, document ICC-ASP24/10, the report of the Committee on Budget and Finance on the work of its 46th session, document ICC-ASP/24/5, the report of the Committee on Budget and Finance on the work of its 47th session, document ICC-ASP/24/15, and the report of the Committee on Budget and Finance on the work of its 48th session, document ICC-ASP/24/25. And additional relevant documentation is indicated in the annotated list of items on the provisional agenda, ICC-ASP/23/1/addition 1. And I now invite the Registrar of the Court, Mr. Osvaldo Zavala-Hilaire, to present the Court's proposed budget for 26. You have the floor, Mr. Registrar. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Madam President, it is truly a great privilege to address you today. This annual session of the Assembly of States Parties takes place at a pivotal moment in the Court's history. Over the past year, the Court has faced unprecedented combination of rising caseload, sustained external pressures, and complex operational challenges. Yet throughout this period, the Court has worked tirelessly to resolve issues proactively, discreetly, and consistently. We have made every effort to act as responsible custodians of the mandate that you have entrusted to us, ensuring that the Court continues to function effectively and continues to deliver and serve the victims who depend on it. In this context, the work that we're undertaking this week is especially meaningful. Our discussions here are a testament to the unity, to the trust, and to the collective resolve that defines this Assembly. The relationship between the Court and you as our states parties is more important today than ever before. The Court has remained focused not only on meeting new challenges, but also on addressing long-standing shortcomings, from workplace culture and internal processes to systems and approaches that require modernization to meet a more complex external environment. So with respect to the 2026 budget, it is important to state clearly that this is not an ordinary time. And therefore, this is not an ordinary budget. It is a budget grounded on the full implementation of the one court principle, guided by responsibility, guided by realism, shaped by reform, and driven by the imperative to serve our mandate, to serve the global justice efficiently, effectively, and sustainably. In preparing this budget, we have approached our responsibilities with the full seriousness that the role of international civil servants demands. We have assessed risks, we have refined practices, and we have challenged ourselves to deliver more with discipline and with foresight. Even as global crises have expanded, the demands placed upon this court. Allow me to also emphasize that when we submitted our budget proposal for the court's 2026 budget, our aim was to fully reflect the need to consider the financial realities faced by states parties. And in that spirit, we propose a total budget amounting of 197.5 million euros, which reflects a 1.1% increase over 2025. This limited growth was achieved despite persistent threats, despite inflation, despite increases in the statutory cost adjustments. This budget required difficult internal adjustments. Across the court, staff have demonstrated dedication, they have demonstrated their professionalism, their resilience, often under intense scrutiny, to ensure that no disruptions affects our judicial proceedings, that no disruptions affects the victim's access to services or the integrity of our field operations. I am deeply grateful for the commitment of our staff. Now, as requested by the ASP, as requested by this Assembly, and consistent with my personal commitment to you as Registrar, the Court has absorbed over 4.2 million euros, including 1.4 million euros in staff and inflationary costs, before requesting any new resources. Every program has been critically reviewed against operational necessity. What we presented is a lean and forward-looking proposal that protects the court's judicial capacity while maintaining its institutional effectiveness and the sustainability of the court. And our approach has been guided by a simple principle, which is that the court must demonstrate its own ability to solve many of its own problems, whether in financial administration, in human resources, in IT security, or in field operations. We have prioritized internal solutions. Of course, to the extent possible, because there are areas that, of course, require and will continue to require state party support. This budget also launches the new ICC strategic plan for 2026 to 2029, and is the first ever unified strategy developed by all organs of the court and the Trust Fund for Victims jointly. It provides a single vision that integrates the long-term strategy, budgeting, and risk managing, ensuring coherence and long-term sustainability for the operations of the court. Now, this strategic alignment also reflects our determination to strengthen a healthy workplace culture. Over the past years, the court has implemented a series of reforms aimed at fostering respect, fostering professionalism, and accountability across the institution. These efforts will continue in 2026, so the court can better serve victims, witnesses, and all those who rely on their work. Operationally, the court anticipates a heavy judicial and reparations workload in 2026. The Office of the Prosecutor continues to conduct complex investigations in an increasing number of situations. The Registry will maintain field presences in 5 countries. And the Trust Fund for Victims expects to reach around 11,000 victims through its assistance and reparations programs. Through this proposal, the court hopes to demonstrate that it is a responsible steward of public funds by absorbing pressures internally, by prioritizing victims, and by maintaining the readiness to fulfill its judicial mandate. We are determined to uphold your trust by demonstrating that the court not only asks responsibly, but also manages responsibly. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, throughout the budgetary process this year, we have deeply appreciated the constructive engagement with the Committee on Budget and Finance and with its chair, Mr. Yamada. The CBF considered our budget proposal, and after a thorough and constructive engagement, recommended that the Assembly approves a budget increase of 0.7% over the approved level of 2025. Now, the work of the committee is essential. It's essential for the Assembly's ability to discharge its responsibility, guided by trust and guided by accountability. So I thank the chair of the CBF, Mr. Yamada, as well as all the members of the committee for their work. I would also like to thank His Excellency Jorge Carvajal, Ambassador of Chile, for his able leadership throughout the budget facilitation, as well as all of you for your consistent engagement with the court in its effort to present a sustainable, needs-based budget, to advance, as I said before, the implementation of the One Core principle, and to pursue all feasible measures to reduce avoidable costs. Your expectations have been clear, and we have taken them seriously. And the court's proposals reflects our efforts to act on that guidance that we have gotten from you. But our proposal this year is more than numbers and planning. It is a statement. Most importantly, it is a call for trust, an affirmation that we are firmly committed to align our actions with the principles and expectations that you have consistently championed for this organization. We're also deeply aware that each of the contributions made by our states represents an investment in justice, in accountability, and in this Rome Statute system that serves us all. This is why we continue to push ourselves to reform where needed, to improve where possible, and to maintain institutional resilience in the face of pressures that would challenge any organization. And we do this because your investments deserve nothing less. Now, it is my understanding that states parties have already reached an agreement on the court's budget for next year, preliminarily. So this represents a significant milestone in our work, reflecting both the careful deliberation that you have undertaken and the shared commitment to ensuring that the court is adequately resourced to fulfill its mandate. Excellencies, delegates, the current circumstances we face today have demanded difficult decisions and have driven profound institutional transformation. Resilience and adaptability right now are defining principles that lie at the heart of the court's operational strategy. Across the court, we have taken concrete steps to strengthen the long-term sustainability of our operations, while enhancing our capacity to respond swiftly to escalating, fast-moving challenges. Not only those we face today, but those to arise in the future. We have, for instance, started transitioning to a new digital workspace system, made possible thanks to the valuable assistance of our state parties. Transitions of this magnitude are unprecedented in most international organizations, and they bring temporary disruptions. Yet they're essential. They're essential investments in the long-term effectiveness and resilience and our capacity to deliver justice. And this effort extends to all our core administrative functions, financial systems, insurance mechanisms, operational platforms, and more. The full benefits may take time to materialize, but they will decisively strengthen our ability to respond to the current and future challenges. Any transition demands adaptation. Staff must adapt to the new workflows, resources must be reallocated, processes need to be adjusted. Change has friction, but it also has purpose. And while the future remains uncertain, and none of us can predict what lies ahead, we're actively working towards sustainable solutions. And in this regard, I'm especially grateful for the initiatives such as the increase of the notional level of the contingency fund, which will enable us to respond to the unforeseen developments with greater flexibility and speed. Allow me to stress this. We are undertaking these transitions with confidence because of the trust and the steadfast support you, our states parties, continue to provide. I also like to extend my gratitude to those states that have been able to support the court through advance payments of their annual contributions. I can assure you that all these measures give us the courage to embrace change, to tackle every challenge head on, and to strengthen the court so that it can continue to deliver on its mandate. It is our engagement and commitment that we will allow and safeguard the integrity of this organization. For this support that we have received from you, I can only offer my deepest gratitude. And I say this not only on behalf of the court, but on behalf of every staff member and individual who believes that justice must prevail. Even as we navigate a challenging environment, we remain firmly focused on the court's daily work, on the core responsibilities. Institutional transformation is not only reactive, but also proactive and strategic. We're implementing concrete, meaningful reforms that will equip the court with new tools, with new standards, and with safeguards that are required of a modern, leading international organization. Among these efforts, we have initiated a comprehensive review of our internal justice mechanisms. This was called by the independent expert review recommendations. This initiative directly addresses concerns about trust and fairness, while also making the system more agile and placing accountability which is one of our core values, at the center of every process. In addition, we're working on establishing an ethics function in the court, as also recommended by the IER and the Audit Committee. This function will provide a critical added layer of support and guidance to management decision-making, but also to staff. It will strengthen our commitment to integrity, to accountability, and to a workplace where safety, respect, fairness are at the heart of everything we do. Because as a court of justice, that is what we need to do. This year, we proudly relaunched our core values, reaffirming the values that guide us: accountability, fairness, inclusion, and integrity. Our colleagues are working on trainings and initiatives to bring these values into concrete actions within the court. And finally, as we continue to strengthen the institution internally, we're also seeing tangible results externally. The recent arrest and surrender of Mr. al-Hishri, thanks to the excellent cooperation of Germany, as well as the arrest and surrender of Mr. Duterte earlier this year. They stand as powerful reminders that accountability under the Rome Statute is not a distant aspiration, but is a living, functioning reality that reinforces the court's relevance and impacts on the world today. I want to thank in this context also our host state, the Netherlands, for their continued support on many aspects of the work of the court, which is often unseen. Now, Excellencies and distinguished delegates, as I have noted, the ICC faces unprecedented and serious challenges. These threats come from multiple directions, all aiming to weaken the court's ability to fulfill the mandate entrusted to it. These sanctions, the threat of sanctions, potentially affecting the entire institution, have become an enduring reality. Yet even in the face of these pressures, the court is preparing for the future with confidence and with determination. And our investment even go far beyond technology and infrastructure. There are investments in the people who make this court what it is. The staff, whose dedication, whose integrity sustain the institution every day. There are investments in a culture that value well-being and share responsibility, because a supported and motivated workforce is the foundation of justice itself. As the President of the Staff Union Council said yesterday in his speech to this assembly, the staff of the court consider it an honor and a privilege to contribute to the mandate of the court. And they stand resolved in their commitment, despite the pressures that we face in the implementation of our mandate. It is this human strength combined with operational resilience that allows the court to meet evolving challenges while safeguarding its independence and effectiveness. But even the strongest institutions cannot succeed alone. Your continued guidance and support are indispensable. Allow me here to pay a special tribute to our colleagues from civil society and to express our solidarity with the challenges they are also facing head-on, facing sometimes the same pressures and risks, including sanctions and coercive measures. We know your commitment and the work you do daily, from the field to this very room, guiding us, and supporting the court's mandate. It is my sincere hope that we carve a path for a sustainable work together, and that will serve also and support your efforts. My responsibility is to ensure that the court remains operational and sustainable. I am personally grateful for the confidence you have placed in me as registrar and in the staff of the registry and of the court as a whole. That trust reinforces our commitment to act with integrity, with responsibility, and with full transparency in all aspects of our work. Our shared responsibility is to preserve a Rome Statute system that is purposeful and enduring, a system that protects the vulnerable, upholds the law, and ensures that no one is above it. And in this, we must never forget, the court's strength lies not only in its mandate or its processes, but in the people who carry it forward, in their resilience and the culture of mutual support, especially in the challenging moments like this that binds us together. I have full confidence in your continued support, and I know that you share the same unwavering confidence in the court staff, in your nationals, and in the shared principles that guide us. Together, we will ensure that this institution not only survives, but thrives, ensuring accountability and affirming that justice is not optional, but essential. I thank you.
I thank the registrar for his very powerful intervention, and I would now give the floor to the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance, Mr. Jun Yamada. You have the floor.
Madam President, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, representatives of the court, on behalf of the Committee on Budget and Finance, the CBF, I am pleased to present a consolidated briefing reflecting the outcomes of the work of the committee in 2025. At the outset, allow me to express our sincere appreciation to Ambassador Jorge Carvajal, the budget facilitator, for his tireless effort, and to the representatives of the court, inter alia, President Akane, Registrar Zavara, and their budget team, for their availability and cooperation of our work. And also to the entire staff of the Secretariat for their quality assistance they have provided throughout the year, including challenging times. Firstly, let me start with the general observations of the committee. The committee's deliberations during its 3 sessions took place against a backdrop of significant operational and financial challenges facing the court, including the following. 1, evolving external threat environment and the impact of sanctions on the court's officials and staff, on the one hand, and the court at an institutional level, on the other hand. 2, necessity for contingency planning to ensure operational continuity under coercive pressures. 3, implementation of enhanced cybersecurity measures such as a security blueprint while closely monitoring their budgetary impact on the regular budget such as lights-on costs. 4, managing inflationary and United Nations common system-related costs. And finally, 5, strengthening recruitment process to secure the necessary expertise. In response to these challenges, the committee put forward a set of recommendations aimed at enhancing financial resilience, improving liquidity, and reinforcing support for victim-centered initiatives as follows. Number one, renew the exceptional access to the contingency fund decided by the Assembly Resolution ICC ASP/23/RES6. Number two, increase the contingency fund's notional level from 7.0 million euros to 10.0 million euros. Number three, replenish the working capital fund to a full level equivalent to 1/12 of the 2025 approved budget. Number four, encourage state parties to make timely contributions and support viable payment mechanisms. And finally, number five, promote active support and voluntary contributions to the Trust Fund for Victims, particularly its reparations program. The committee reaffirmed continuously the importance of strict prioritization of resources and strategic alignment between the court's operational needs and budgetary planning. Next, I would like to move on to the consideration of the 2026 proposed program budget. The committee thoroughly reviewed the budget assumptions, judicial activities, workload, inflationary pressures, and past cost trends. As a result, it recommended a total reduction of 695.2 thousand euros from the 2026 proposed program budget of 197,548.1 thousand euros, which includes the 3,585.1 thousand euros for host state loan. This would bring the recommended 2026 proposed program budget to 196,852.9 thousand euros, representing a total increase of 1,371.4 thousand euros, or a 0.7% increase compared to the 2025 approved budget of 195.4 million euros. I shall move on to the major program recommendations. The key recommendations for the 2026 proposed program budget include the following. Judiciary MP1 requested and the committee recommended a total amount of 15.5 million euros, which represents a 4.3% decrease, mainly due to the completion of the terms of 3 judges in the Yakatam and Gaisana trial. Office of Prosecutor MP2 requested a total amount of 63.7 million euros, which represents a 2.5% increase. However, the committee recommended a reduction from the GTA budget of 675,000 euros. Therefore, the total amount recommended by the committee is 63.0 million euros. The registry, MP3, requested a total amount of 99.6 million euros, which represents a 0.3% increase. However, the committee recommended a net reduction of 200 euros, which makes the total amount recommended by the committee 99.627 million euros. Secretariat of the ASP MP4 requested and the committee recommended a total amount of 3.3 million euros, which represents a 2.5% decrease. Premises MP5 requested and the committee recommended a total amount of 4.6 million euros, a 16% increase for capital replacements. The increase is due to mandatory electrotechnical inspections, preventive and corrective maintenance, and planned capital replacements. The Trust Fund for Victims, MP6, requested and the committee recommended a total amount of 4.8 million euros with a 5% increase. The increase is mainly due to the travel costs to New York to attend the assembly session in 2026. Oversight Mechanism, MP7-5, requested a total amount of 1.18 million euros, a 6.4% increase. However, the committee recommended a reduction from the consultancy budget of 20,000 euros, which keeps the recommended level at 1.168 million euros. And finally, Office of Internal Audit, MP7-6, requested and the committee recommended a total amount of 937.2 thousand euros with a 0.8% increase, which is mainly due to higher consulting costs, partially offset by reduced travel expenses, as no missions to country offices are planned in 2026. Now let's move on to the 6 other budgetary issues in the following order. The contingency fund, working capital fund, trust funds, the security blueprint, lights on cost, and official travel. Firstly, the contingency fund. The contingency fund, or the CF, currently stands at a notional level of 7.0 million euro, with 5.6 million euros in cash, which is to be replenished to 7.0 million euro by the end of 2025 from surplus funds. The committee recommended the CF as an essential instrument to enhance the court's resilience to emerging and unprecedented threats. Therefore, the committee recommended the following. A, the Assembly reinstate the notional level of the CF to its original level of 10.0 million euros. B, the Assembly extended the exceptional access to the CF granted for the year 2025 to the year 2026. And C, if the court considers it necessary to explore other options, including the possibility of amending the Rule 6 of the Financial Rules and Regulations, it should submit a proposal to the committee in a timely manner, allowing sufficient time for review and consideration. As for the replenishment of the CF, a transfer of 1.4 million euros by the end of 2025 will replenish the CF to 7.0 million euros, and an estimated amount of 3.0 million euros from the 2024 surplus may increase the cash level to 10 million euros. Secondly, the Working Capital Fund. The Working Capital Fund, or the WCF, currently holds 11.5 million euros in cash. Should the surplus from 2023 amounting 1.8 million euros be added at the end of this year, the cash level will rise to 13.3 million euros. The level of the WCF was decided by the Assembly in 2022 to amount to 1/12 of the level of the approved budget of the previous year, namely about 16.3 million euros, to which it could be further replenished. It would therefore be helpful to receive the 2026 contributions of the state parties as early as possible. Thirdly, I shall go to the 5 trust funds. First of all, the OTP Trust Fund on Advanced Technology and Specialized Capacity. The committee was informed that the OTP Trust Fund on Advanced Technology and Specialized Capacity had successfully received all pledged contributions totaling 34.8 million euros from state parties and the European Union as of 30 June 2025. The committee highly commended the pledging parties for their timely and generous financial support. Second is the seconded national experts. As of September 2025, the OTP had 46 seconded experts, down from a peak of 62 in February 2024, and expected to stabilize around 20 by the end of 2026. MOUs with 35 entities from 23 state parties support these secondments. Most secondees, namely 87%, are from Western Europe and other states, with fewer from Eastern European, 12%, and Asia Pacific, 1%. I will move on to the third item, OTP Trust Fund for Complementarity and Cooperation. Established in 2024 at the prosecutor's request, the Trust Fund supports the OTP's renewed policy by financing positive complementarity projects that aid domestic proceedings. It complements a regular budget at the OTP without duplication. As of August 2025, the fund received 714,841 euros in contributions, with 124,127 euros disbursed. Next is the OTP Trust Fund on Geographic Diversity. The OTP Trust Fund for Geographic Diversity, established in 2023, provides financial compensation to support personnel deployment at ICC duty stations. It will operate until 2028. As of August 2025, it received 702,570 euros in contributions with no expenditures yet. And finally, Special Fund for Security. The committee recalled that the Security Framework Strategy, or the SFS, was created to channel 3.88 million euros in voluntary contributions for urgent IT/IM security measures after the 2023 cyber attack. These funds were allocated to critical 2024 projects, including enhanced endpoint protection, improved field connectivity, and establishing a security operations center. The SFS is set to close by the end of 2026 upon project completion. However, the committee expressed concern over the lack of detailed 2025 financial implementation data for both the SFS and of the 2025 Security Blueprint at its 48th session. It emphasized the need for timely, transparent reporting and requested comprehensive data by its 50th session. Now coming back to the fourth budgetary issue, which is the Security Blueprint. The committee reviewed the court's IT/IM security blueprint and cost management following the September 2023 cyber attack. Adopted in June 2024 and endorsed by key bodies, the blueprint replaces the previous IT/IM strategy and directs all security investments. The total implementation cost is estimated at 15.25 million, with 3.52 million raised via voluntary contributions to the SFS in 2024 for urgent measures. The Assembly approved a dedicated 8.31 million multi-year funding envelope for the term 2025 to 2027, allocating 3.41 million euros for 2025, 2.36 million euros requested for 2026, and 2.54 million euros projected for 2027. And fifth, on the lights-on costs. The blueprint's ongoing lights-on cost rose by 1.0 million euros in 2025 and is estimated to rise by 525.5 thousand euros in 2026, but are offset by efficiency gains, keeping total IT costs stable at 17.4 million euros. The committee commended the court for containing the costs despite increased pressures. And finally, official travel. The 2026 travel budget is 3,991.4 thousand euros, which is 2.0% of the total budget. This is 13.5% or 474.7 thousand euros higher than the 2025 budget, which is 3,516.7 thousand euros. Most of the increase, namely the 296.2 thousand euros, covers travel for the Assembly's 25th session in New York. Excluding this, the rise from 2025 will be lowered to 5.1% or 178.5 thousand euros. The court indicated, and the committee acknowledged, that the proposed total travel budget for 2026 is the lowest since 2006. The committee further noted that the vast majority of court's travel is operational in nature, underscoring the critical role that travel plays in fulfilling the court's mandate efficiently. The committee noted progress in applying travel SOPs, and urge finalization of policies to ensure consistent use across programs while retaining flexibility for external missions. In conclusion, allow me to reiterate that the committee is your subsidiary body that will continue analyzing budgetary, financial, and administrative matters on their technical merits, in line with its mandate. The committee will continue providing its expertise and technical recommendations to the Assembly in close coordination with the other oversight bodies, based on the guidance by the Assembly. This concludes my remarks, Madam President, and thank you for your attention.
I thank the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance for his intervention and also for the support you, Mr. Chairperson, and all the members of the CP have provided in preparation of the program budget. You have received last night a message from the ASP Secretariat on the outcome of the silence procedure of the draft resolution of the program budget. According to the journal, we would have the working group on the budget immediately after this assembly meeting, and unless the coordinator advises otherwise, we could do away with the working group meeting, and I would invite the coordinator of the group to report of the outcome directly to this assembly. You have the floor, Ambassador Jorge Carvajal.
Thank you, Mrs. President. I'm pleased to inform you that in my capacity as coordinator, I have concluded that we have reached consensus on the 2026 budget. I'm therefore submitting the resolution for the Assembly's consideration. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the Committee on Budget and Finance, the Audit Committee, the External Auditor, and the Court for their valuable contribution and expertise. My gratitude also goes to the focal points for the budget subtopic under Budget Management Oversight, Ambassador Paul Tesalu of Estonia, for this outstanding work. I would like to thank all the state parties for their frank but constructive engagement through the budget discussion. The spirit of dialogue that prevailed in our discussions made this result possible. Dear colleagues, I am very grateful to the way you approach these negotiations. Despite the fiscal constraint that state parties are facing, they agree that in the face of the sanctions and threat that the court is facing, it was necessary to show unity and give the court the tools to address those challenges, without forgetting that more efficiency can always be achieved in the management of the resources. You can see those requirements reflected in the language of the resolution. I must point out that the discussions were easier this time because the increase requested by the court was significantly lower than the previous years and was guided by the one court principle. The Committee of Budget and Finance and the state parties welcome the court's effort to contain the growth through prudent resource prioritization. Let me acknowledge the constant support I received from my legal advisor, Paula Monsalve, who accompanied me in this challenging task. I wish to express my special thanks to the Secretariat staff, to Gabriel, Faki, Fabiola, and Rodrigo, for their continuous support during the facilitation of the budget process. And last but not least, my appreciation to the Court for always responding promptly to all delegations' inquiries. Thank you very much, Mrs. President.
Thank you very much, Ambassador and Coordinator of the Group on Program Budget. Of course, we will return to this topic at the time of formal adoption, and it is my understanding that the report of the working group will be agreed by silence procedure, and it will be sent out today, I believe. We will now move to agenda item 13, consideration of the audit report. I draw your attention to the following documentation before the Assembly. The financial statements of the International Criminal Court for the year ended 31st December 24 in document ICC-ASP/24/12. The financial statement of the Trust Fund for Victims for the year ended 31st December 24 in document ICC-ASP/2413, and performance audit report on Trust Fund and document ICC-ASP/24/4. I now give the floor to the representative of the external auditor, Mr. Yangshan Shaw. You have the floor.
Madam President, Your Excellencies and distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to present to you today the report prepared by the external auditor during 2025 in accordance with Article 12 of the Financial Rules and Regulations of the International Criminal Court. I would like to give a brief overview of the three audit reports which were issued in 2025 by the external auditor. A. Financial statement of the ICC for the year ended 31st December 2024. B. Financial statement of the Trust Fund for Victims for the year ended 31st December 2024. And C. Performance audit on Trust Fund. Based on the financial audit, the external auditor believes that the accompanying financial statement present fairly in all material respects for the 2024, and audit evidence that has been obtained is sufficient and appropriate. Therefore, the external auditor provided unmodified audit opinion on the 2024 financial statement for both the ICC and the Trust Fund for Victims. Madam President, now I would like to address the audit report on the financial statement of the ICC for the financial year 2024. Regarding the financial position, total assets increased, primarily due to a significant rise in cash and cash equivalent. At the same time, total liabilities slightly increased due to a rise in deferred revenue and accrued expenses. Regarding the financial performance, it was found that both total revenues and expenses experienced growth in 2024. On the revenue side, despite a decrease in voluntary contributions, total revenue increased due to a significant rise in assessed contributions. On the expense side, total expenses increased, primarily due to a rise in employee benefit expenses, which represent the most significant portion of our overall cost. In the 2024 financial audit, the procurement function was reviewed due to the significant growth in procurement volume over recent years and the absence of updates to the 2007 procurement SOP. The external auditor therefore focused on discrepancies within the SOP and actual practices and present the key findings and recommendations as follows. In relation to the procurement internal controls, some procurement requisitions were submitted with a nominal amount of €1 or less solely for the purpose of procurement planning. the requesting sections would then proceed with the procurement by charging the procurement requisitions to reflect the actual budget on receiving additional allocation at a large stage. Therefore, the external auditor recommended strengthening controls to ensure procurement requisitions reflect a realistic estimate at the time of submission. With respect to the review process, several procurement review committee reviews were conducted only after purchase commitment had already been made. Due to time constraint and unclear procedures, the external auditor recommended establishing clear rules to prevent ex post facto procurement review committees and safeguard the integrity of the review process. Regarding the data management, key procurement dates in SAP were often missing or recorded identically, making it difficult to monitor delays or analyze their causes. Thus, the external auditor recommended improving the accuracy of procurement data and introducing KPIs to track the duration of procurement processes. Next, I would like to present the audit report on the financial statement of the Trust Fund for Victims, including its financial position and performance for 2024. Regarding the financial position, total assets decreased, primarily due to a reduction in cash and cash equivalent. Provisions, which made up a significant portion of total liabilities, slightly increased from the previous year. But total liabilities decreased due to a reduction in deferred revenue and accrued expenses. Net assets and equity also declined slightly. Regarding the financial performance, the deficit trend has continued from the previous year. Total revenue increased due to a significant rise in voluntary contributions. However, program expenses also grew substantially. Nevertheless, the deficit narrowed compared to the previous year. Madam President, in 2025, the external auditor conducted a performance audit on the ICC's trust fund to assess whether they were being managed efficiently and appropriately. The objective was to provide state parties with information that supports their decision-making on voluntary contributions and strengthens their oversight of the trust fund. The external auditor focused in particular on the appropriateness of the procedures for establishing trust fund, the validity of cost planning and execution, the transparency of reporting to state parties, and the existence of monitoring and evaluation mechanisms. Based on these areas of focus, the external auditor presents the audit findings and recommendations as follows. In establishment section, the external auditor focused on their purpose, the safeguarding of the court's independence, and the assessment of financial implications for the regular budget. With regard to the purpose, the General Trust Fund had been operated without clearly defined purpose and used for activities such as one-off expenditures or holding contributions intended for another trust fund. Thus, the external auditor recommended clarifying the purpose of the General Trust Fund and ensuring that future trust funds have well-defined objectives. In relation to the independence safeguard to protect the court's independence when accepting contributions lacked consistency. As donor declarations were not always obtained and independence-related clauses varied across agreement. There were also no clear criteria for assessing whether contributions could affect independence. Accordingly, the external auditor recommended standardizing independence safeguard and establishing clear assessment criteria. Regarding the financial implications for the regular budget, no criteria had been established to determine such implications, and related rationales were often undocumented. Some funds initially assessed as having no financial impact were later supported by regular budget resources. Therefore, the external auditor recommended creating clear criteria for assessing financial implications and strengthening related controls. For budgeting and implementation part, the external auditor focused on cost planning, the use of trust fund and regular budget resources, and the management of program support cost. With respect to planning, some trust funds did not prepare complete cost plans, and information on trust fund resources was not sufficiently shared during the PPB review, limiting the ASP's ability to assess the overall resource situation. Thus, the external auditor recommended strengthening cost planning and improving the provision of financial information for budget deliberations. In relation to the use of trust fund and regular budget resources, certain program expenditures related to trust fund were initially charged to the regular budget and later reclassified to the relevant trust fund. Accordingly, the external auditor recommended reinforcing internal controls to ensure that such expenditures are charged directly to trust fund contributions. Regarding the management of program support cost, clear criteria for program support cost waivers or reductions had not been established, and program support cost was applied mainly to a limited number of sections without a formal allocation policy, leading to accumulating program support cost balances. Therefore, the external auditor recommended establishing clear program support cost criteria and adopting a more balanced allocation system to prevent indirect cost from shifting to the regular budget. In reporting, evaluation, and closure part, the audit focused on reporting practices, performance evaluation, and the treatment of unspent balances. With respect to reporting, information on newly established and closed trust fund were not clearly distinguished, making changes identifiable only by comparing prior year reports. One extra budgetary resource that was not a trust fund was also reported as such. In addition, the report on activities and program performance did not consistently provide fund-specific financial information, including program support cost. Thus, the external auditor recommended improving the clarity of reporting and enhancing the visibility of each fund's financial and operational information. In relation to the performance evaluation, some trust fund was subject to KPI-based assessment, but this framework did not apply to all trust funds. Accordingly, the external auditor recommended expanding the use of KPIs to strengthen performance evaluation across all trust funds. Regarding the management of unspent balances, one trust fund that ended its activities in 2018 still retained a remaining balance due to difficulty in obtaining the donor's response. Therefore, the external auditor recommended clarifying provisions on the treatment of unspent balances to facilitate timely fund closure. Madam President, I would like to conclude my presentation and also extend my appreciation to all of you. The external auditor hopes that these efforts contribute to improving the performance of the ICC. Thank you.
I thank Mr. Yang Shanshaw for his intervention. Thank you for walking us through your reports. We will now turn to the consideration of the annual report of the head of the independent oversight mechanism. I draw your attention to the following documentation before the Assembly. Annual report of the head of the independent oversight mechanism in document ICC-ASP24/8. I now give the floor to the head of the IOM, Mr. Sylvain Sana, to introduce the annual report of the IOM.
Madame President, Excellencies, distingués délégués, chers collègues, c'est à la fois un privilège et un honneur pour moi de prendre la parole aujourd'hui devant cette auguste Assemblée pour présenter le rapport du mécanisme de contrôle indépendant de la Cour pénale internationale. C'est ma première adresse depuis ma nomination à la tête du mécanisme. C'est donc l'occasion pour moi de remercier Madame la Présidente et le bureau de l'Assemblée pour avoir placé leur confiance en moi pour diriger ce bureau. Je voudrais aussi témoigner ma gratitude ainsi que celle de toute mon équipe pour le soutien reçu tout au long de cette année. Madame la Présidente, Excellences, distingués délégués, j'ai pris la direction du mécanisme à un moment charnière, non seulement pour le mécanisme, mais aussi pour la Cour. Il n'est nul besoin de rappeler le rôle crucial que joue le mécanisme dans l'architecture de la Cour. Il est le garant des valeurs de la Cour, valeurs de redevabilité, de voie d'équité, d'inclusion et d'intégrité. Ces 4 piliers constituent la boussole de nos actions et de nos comportements. Ce sont ces valeurs qui nous tiennent ensemble en tant qu'institution. C'est au mécanisme qu'échoit l'insigne honneur et la lourde responsabilité de s'assurer, de vous assurer, vous, État partie, que les personnes qui animent la Cour agissent en tout temps et en tout lieu avec intégrité, la plus grande éthique morale et professionnelle, en toute efficacité, en adéquation avec le cadre légal et réglementaire. Pour cela, vous avez doté le mécanisme de l'indépendance dont il a besoin pour jouer ce rôle, et ce, premièrement, en menant des enquêtes administratives internes sur des manquements commis par le personnel, y compris les élus, mais aussi en procédant au vetting des candidats aux postes électifs dans l'optique de s'assurer qu'ils jouissent d'une haute considération morale conformément au statut de Rome. Deuxièmement, en menant des évaluations afin d'apporter des améliorations et des changements. Et troisièmement, en menant des inspections lorsque les problèmes ponctuels surviennent. Ce rôle pivotal que joue le mécanisme, je le prends avec le plus grand sérieux. C'est la crédibilité, c'est l'intégrité, c'est la réputation de la Cour en tant qu'institution qui sont en jeu. Nous ne pouvons prétendre combattre l'impunité et rechercher la justice pour les victimes des crimes internationaux si notre Cour, si chacun de ses membres ne respecte pas ses valeurs fondamentales. J'ai pris la fonction à un moment de grand défi pour le mécanisme. regard critique porté sur le mécanisme, déficit de confiance, incompréhension. Mais pour moi, c'est la preuve manifeste de la pertinence et de l'importance de ce mécanisme. Sinon, pourquoi s'en préoccuper? C'est dans ce contexte difficile que j'ai travaillé durant l'année écoulée avec une équipe engagée et résiliente, avec comme seul objectif en tête maintenir le cap, vaille que vaille, et continuer à remplir le mandat que vous, État partie, vous nous avez confié. Et nous avons engrangé de résultats forts appréciables. Mon rapport annuel, que j'ai rendu public le 23 octobre dernier, témoigne du travail abattu et aussi des développements importants enregistrés au cours de l'année écoulée. En matière d'enquête interne, mon bureau a enregistré une forte hausse de nombre de plaintes reçues et examinées, soit 77% de hausse. Les plaintes reçues concernent, bien entendu, des allégations de manquements divers, harcèlement, fraude, harcèlement sexuel, discrimination, abus de pouvoir et j'en passe. Ces allégations concernent aussi bien des membres du personnel que des élus. Cette augmentation est le signe de la confiance progressivement placée dans mon bureau, soulignant en même temps l'importance de son rôle. Cette hausse du nombre de plaintes doit aussi interpeller. Interpeller parce qu'elle indique que beaucoup de choses restent à faire dans le cadre de l'amélioration du climat du travail. Cette hausse soudaine, en inadéquation avec les ressources disponibles, est un son d'alarme aussi, à l'attention de vous, les États parties, quant à la nécessité de remédier assez rapidement à ce déséquilibre en matière de ressources. Mon bureau a aussi mené une évaluation de la complémentarité en Guinée. Le principe de complémentarité est au cœur du système de Rome. L'année dernière, vous avez jugé utile de demander à mon bureau d'évaluer sa mise en œuvre par le bureau du procureur, justement au regard de l'importance de ce principe. C'est une première du genre. Ce travail d'évaluation a été effectué de février à juin 2025 avec l'implication de tous les acteurs concernés, au premier chef le bureau du procureur et les autorités guinéennes, mais aussi les victimes, les organisations de la société civile, nationale et internationale, et bien d'autres acteurs. Cette évaluation a nécessité le déploiement en mission en Guinée, que j'ai personnellement conduite. Le rapport final que nous venons de boucler identifie des enseignements et fait des recommandations pertinentes et utiles pour non seulement la situation en Guinée, mais aussi pour d'autres situations. Et toujours concernant l'évaluation, il est important de noter la création du comité de planification des évaluations, qui est une entité composée de représentants des États parties, rattachée au bureau de l'Assemblée, dont le rôle sera d'épauler le mécanisme sur des questions stratégiques en matière d'évaluation et de suivi de recommandations, accroissant ainsi votre implication dans cette fonction d'évaluation. Enfin, s'agissant toujours des réalisations du mécanisme, dès que j'ai pris fonction, je me suis donné pour mission de raviver la fonction d'inspection qui était non utilisée depuis 2017. Je souhaite poursuivre l'opérationnalisation de cette fonction au cours de mon mandat. En plus des résultats engrangés, le mécanisme a connu des développements majeurs s'agissant de son mandat et de son cadre normatif. Le premier développement majeur est l'établissement de l'enquête de moralité concernant les candidats aux postes électifs, qu'on appelle communément due diligence. L'Assemblée avait adopté il y a 2 ans la résolution sur cette question. Et au cours de cette année, j'ai travaillé avec le groupe de travail sur la facilitation consacrée au mécanisme pour la mise en œuvre de cette résolution, notamment en aménageant le mandat opérationnel du mécanisme pour incorporer cette nouvelle procédure. Cet amendement a été endossé par le bureau et sera soumis pour adoption. Cette procédure est d'une importance capitale. Elle permet en amont de s'assurer que les personnes que vous allez élire pour conduire et animer la Cour soient effectivement des professionnels expérimentés, jouissant d'une haute considération morale, contribuant ainsi à pérenniser et à accroître l'intégrité et la réputation de la Cour. Le second développement majeur est la mise en place du panel ad hoc, chargé de se pencher sur les rapports des enquêtes concernant les élus. J'ai également travaillé avec le groupe de travail chargé de cette question, en particulier sur les différents amendements du cadre normatif que nécessite cette procédure. Cette procédure est une avancée majeure et contribuera sans aucun doute à améliorer le système de redevabilité pour les élus. Madame la Présidente, Excellences, distingués délégués, l'année écoulée m'a permis de prendre la mesure exacte des défis du mécanisme, me permettant de projeter avec confiance sur l'avenir. Le mécanisme est relativement jeune. Le travail qui a été accompli jusque-là a permis de le mettre sur pied, de le rendre opérationnel. Il a atteint un niveau où il faut non seulement consolider les acquis, mais surtout opérer sa mutation, opérer des transformations nécessaires pour le rendre plus apte à relever les grands défis que le mandat lui impose. L'architecture existe, le cadre réglementaire a été progressivement renforcé et se poursuivra. Mais cela ne suffit pas. Le mécanisme souffre d'un manque cruel de ressources lui permettant de remplir ses fonctions de façon diligente et efficace. Cela ne correspond pas à l'importance et aux ambitions qu'on lui attribue et constitue un handicap majeur. Le mécanisme est votre outil, un outil à votre disposition vous permettant d'exercer un contrôle effectif sur le fonctionnement de la Cour. Des développements récents ont rappelé à tous l'importance du mécanisme, un mécanisme fort, suffisamment outillé et apte à relever tous les défis, mais surtout à les prévenir. Je m'engage à poursuivre la réflexion avec l'Assemblée et le Bureau pour l'avènement d'un mécanisme plus fort et pérenne. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Silvansana, for your report and for all the work that you are doing in the interest of the court. We have thus concluded our business for this plenary. I would hope to see you in the sixth plenary this afternoon at 15 hours, and that will be on the non-cooperation. And unless there are any other requests on the floor, this meeting is adjourned. I don't see any other requests. See you this afternoon. Thank you.